This semester I'm teaching COM 101, which is an introduction to news writing, and COM 202, which is more advanced news writing, and it's also, I also teach the students there how to make video documentaries. Both are great classes, a lot of fun. You should become, it seems to me, an expert in 2 or 3 things that you really enjoy. And you want to become an expert in those so that you can write about them, you can do research on them, you can talk to people about them. And then in addition, you need to become a generalist about almost everything else. Become the most curious people on this planet. Be curious about everything. And one of the best ways to be curious is to ask why and how. Ask why a lot. So whatever your passions are that might have something to do with journalism, like let's just say sports or fashion or entertainment or politics or economics or education, become an expert in 1 or 2 of those areas that you really enjoy. And then know a little bit about everything else, but you need to know in particular, you need to know about government and economics if you're going to go into journalism. Save your convoluted, complex, time-bending sentences and writing for your fiction writing. When you're writing that great American novel, there are no rules. You can write it any way you want to. But your goal with journalism writing is to make what you write clearly and simply understood by your listeners or your readers. That is your goal. And guess what? If you learn to write simply and clearly, people will think you're smarter than if you use big words and long convoluted sentences. Studies have actually shown this to be true. The first one are the first 6 tips that I'm going to give you, and I use a mnemonic device to help remember them. So the mnemonic that we're going to use today is places. You might want to write down places. P stands for precisely, L stands for logically, A stands for accurately, C stands for clearly, E stands for effectively, and S stands for simply. Let me give you some examples of precisely. Now these are real examples from the 2 papers I've asked my students to write here. One was on comparing various types of news media, which meant newspapers and other forms of printed news, and broadcast, like radio or television, and of course the internet. And then I also asked them to write a story on the history and the current celebration of Halloween. Halloween's coming up very soon. So most of the students did a pretty good job of writing, but some of them made some errors in precision that I think you might find interesting and informative. Quote, the newspaper acquired more time to read. And what this person really meant to say was the newspaper required more time to read, but they got the word required and acquired mixed up. Don't do that. Another example, quote, I'm always weary of the sites I click on. What he or she meant to say was, I'm always wary, W-A-R-Y, of the sites that I click on. A simple mistake, spell check wouldn't catch that, but the meaning is totally different between wary and weary. Another example, quote, the OC Register seemed much more sincere toward the woman than the other news media. Instead of saying the word sincere, he or she should have used sympathetic. The OC Register seemed much more sympathetic toward the woman than the other news media. I think that was about the Octomom, if I recall correctly. But anyway, another example, quote, television defiantly had a different perspective than the newspaper. Television defiantly should have been, television definitely had a different perspective. Again, a simple mistake, another one that spell check wouldn't catch, but you all here wouldn't do that, right? You would know better. Another example, the TV audience was able to hear the dialect between the 2 people. And the person used the word dialect when they really meant to use the word dialogue. Correct. Well, there's a sharp group. All right, good. Most of my work for me, that's nice. Let me just give you a couple of other examples here. The other news media outlets briefly synthesized the speech. What should that have been? No? Summarized, I think. The other news outlets briefly summarized the speech. I think is what it should have been. Okay? Let me give you another example. Quote, how Halloween costumes are warned nowadays. Warned rather than worn. It was spelled just as you should spell warned, like it was a warning, W-A-R-N-E-D. So, anyway. And another one, this actually may be true in its accidental meaning. Excess drinking may result in carless action instead of careless action. Not kidding. Wouldn't that be much better as careless? In some ways it would. Adults can be seen haunting for Halloween parties as opposed to hunting for Halloween parties. If it's only appropriate on Halloween, you're out there hunting for parties. Quote, the festival involved over time. We're referring to Halloween here. The festival involved over time when they mean to say evolved over time. The poster looked contrite and high schoolish. The poster looked trite. Is that what you said?
Yes.
The poster looked trite. It's what it should have said, rather than contrite. Once again, a huge difference in the meaning between trite and contrite. Yeah.
Do you think it's mostly proofreading error,
Yeah.
or is it mostly, or is it that actual lack of knowledge of what the word is?
Good question. I think it's half and half. I think some of these students actually would have known, if they had proofread better, what they should have used. And I think in some cases people just don't know. And the main reason why people don't know is because they don't read enough. I cannot emphasize to you enough, read every opportunity you have. Okay, so that's the P in places. Now let's go to the next letter, which is L. What does L stand for? Logically. Here's the biggest error in logic that I see, and that is making a mistake about correlation versus cause and effect. So just because there's a correlation between things does not necessarily mean that there's a cause and effect. A classic example is the 60 Minutes episode a couple of years back on how French men eat more fat than American men, don't go to the gym as often, eat more sweets, eat more bread, and yet have fewer heart problems than American men. So guess what they saw as perhaps a cause and effect? What do Frenchmen consume a lot more of than American men? Wine, and in particular red wine. So they had this really nicely done episode on how red wine helps your heart. And guess what? Wine sales around the United States the next month or so went up something like 40%, no kidding. And they repeated it about a year later, and again there was a huge increase in the amount of red wine being sold. But some other studies came along and said, whoops, wait a minute, you're overlooking a couple of things. What do you think they might have been overlooking?
Portion sizes.
Portion sizes is a very good one. Typically they eat less food than we do. What's another possible correlation that might make a difference here? Genetics is a possibility, although in this case it doesn't look like the genetics is a factor. That could have been.
A lot less people, there's a lot more exercise and just regular walking and biking in Europe as opposed to here.
Exactly. If you've ever been to Europe,
I'm from Germany.
oh, so you know. So people definitely do walk and bicycle more there. So they may not go to the gym as often, but they certainly get a lot more exercise in on average than Americans do. Any other thoughts about what might be a factor here? Yeah.
They're taught from an early age that getting smashed is looked down upon. It's socially not acceptable.
Yeah.
Very good point. For the most part, and there are some exceptions, but for the most part, Europeans don't get falling down drunk. If you go to Italy or France or probably Germany and you see somebody drunk walking down the street, they're probably a tourist. Matter of fact, they may be in America. Yeah.
Lifestyle, stress, life factors, children, we have 2.5, they have 1.2.
Okay, good point. So lifestyle is a huge factor. And part of the lifestyle is another aspect of their diet other than red wine. What is that?
Teeth, frogs.
Well, it's called the Mediterranean diet, which means that you probably have a lot more fish, a lot more salad, and especially olive oil. And guess what? Those things may be as much of a factor as red wine. Now, it turns out that red wine does have some things in it that are helpful for your heart, but it's not the only factor. And so here's a case of correlation not necessarily being the correct and only cause of the cause and effect.